US soccer has a massive problem. The team's play on the field has been abhorrent, the manager is clueless and has no idea what he's doing, but most importantly, this national team is hemorrhaging a generation of dual national fans who are actively choosing to support other national teams. Now, before I get deeper into the topic, guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We'll have more amazing footy content coming up as we lead towards the 2026 World Cup. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, the United States, Canada, and Mexico are set to host the 2026 World Cup. It'll be the first time the United States is hosting the tournament in 32 years. Now, normally hosting a World Cup on home soil would lead to feelings of excitement, positivity, optimism. Well, we have a chance to show the world what we can do. Unfortunately, this generation of USMNT players hasn't done enough on the field or even off the field to promote a sense of optimism amongst the fan base. And to make it even worse, not only are the stadiums emptier than expected, dual national fans are just not gravitating towards this team. Now, the example I want to focus on is the USMNT's most recent friendly against South Korea in Harrison, New Jersey. But what was more important is what we were noticing in the stands. For those who don't know, the tri-state area has a massive Korean American population, and they absolutely showed out for the match. South Korea manager Hong Myung-bo said it felt more like a home match than an away game, and you had a lot of USMNT fans on X raging about the fact that Korean Americans would dare choose to support another national team. And some of the tweets, to be honest, gave me shades of nationalism and racism. You don't even have to look at South Korea. Look at the Mexican national team. Mexican Americans from any part of the country usually support the Mexican team over the USMNT. Many USMNT fans may be upset, and they have a right to be. And they'll ask why. Why were you born in the United States and went to school here, but you can't support our men's or women's football teams? The answer to that is complex and not just limited to, oh, well, they just don't like the United States. But to really dive deep into this issue, we have to go back in history. For those who don't know, soccer is a relatively young sport in the United States. Back when the US hosted its first World Cup in '94, the MLS hadn't even played its first game yet. The league was founded as a result of the US winning the bid for the World Cup, but the league didn't officially begin operations until 1996. And for many years after that, the league operated at a loss, losing millions of dollars and folding 2 teams in 2002. Now, since then, developments such as the creation of soccer-specific stadiums around the country, the implementation of the designated player rule, which allowed teams to sign star players like David Beckham, Lionel Messi, and the rise of TV contracts have made the league profitable, but it's still way behind in terms of the other leagues such as the NBA, the NFL, and even Major League Baseball. And because the sport is still considered so young in the United States, you don't have a culture, a tradition, a history. In football, what is one of the most important things? It's winning. Most people pick their clubs based not just on the colors or where they're located, but also based on the prestige, how many trophies they've won. Why do you think Manchester United, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Liverpool have so many fans across the world? Because they win and deliver iconic moments. The US men's national team hasn't done much of that. Besides Landon Donovan's 2010 goal against Algeria in that World Cup and maybe John Brooks' header against Ghana in 2014, the US men's national team hasn't given us many moments to celebrate together as a nation. Couple that with the disastrous failure to qualify for the 2018 World Cup in Russia, and this team is operating in the red when it comes to attracting fans from different backgrounds. The fact that the USMNT hasn't won much makes it easy for a Korean American to pick the Korean national team because we had magical runs like the 2002 World Cup. Asking a Mexican American to pick the US over Mexico is sacrilegious considering the amazing players that Mexico has produced and the fact that this is a national team that has consistently made it to the knockout rounds of the World Cup until most recently in the last one. But it's not just winning that is the issue. It's an issue of alienation. And if we're being honest, I think the political situation in the country is contributing to many dual national fans just not wanting to support this national team. No matter what your politics are, whether you're on the left, center, or right, it's clear that this country is more divided than ever before. Asking fans of color to unconditionally support a national team and a country that at many times has othered us or made us feel not welcome is a tough ask. Mass deportation of immigrants by ICE agents and a recent raid on a Korean factory. It is hard to ask fans of color to support a country that feels like it's gone backwards to the 1950s and is doing nothing more than repressing people from different backgrounds because it can. And that's just the way it is, whether USMNT fans want to accept it or not. I'm sure many of these players would never say it, but if you ask some dual nat Mexican Americans why they picked the Mexico over the US, I'm sure in their hearts part of the reason had to do with the fact that they just felt more comfortable playing in an environment like Mexico where people look like them and they're not going to be asked about where their parents are from. They're just going to be considered another member of the team. Couple that with the fact that many of these USMNT stars are just not likable. You have a spoiled rich kid in Timothy Weah talking about how criticism of this national team is evil. But most importantly, you have an American captain in Christian Pulisic, who's a wonderful player, but goes out and does divisive things like imitating President Trump's dance. And this video isn't to crap on the United States. The United States has given me, my family, and my friends a whole lot. It's an amazing country with an amazing idea that we can be stronger together than we are apart. But unfortunately, it hasn't really been living up to those ideals. The 2026 World Cup is an opportunity to right some of the wrongs that U.S. soccer has committed in the past, but I think it's going to take another generation for this team and this fan base to reach out to fans from diverse backgrounds and let them know that they're welcome. Unfortunately, the situation in the country is at a point where people are so divided, and many of these dual nationals, Korean Americans, Mexican Americans, are just not going to support the USMNT. And I think something that many US soccer fans don't realize is how hard it is being a dual national or somebody from two cultures. You feel like you have two hearts beating in your chest, as Lucas Podolski said when he was asked about scoring against his native Poland while he was wearing Germany's shirt. You love, you hate, you criticize, you praise both countries. And at the end of the day, choosing which one to root for is an intensely personal decision. And I think that US soccer fans crapping on people for making those decisions might need to learn a bit of empathy and look inwards and realize that maybe there's a reason for this than just besides, oh, we don't like America.